Hi folks, Judy here from Mill Creek and Lycoming Railroad. Here with Joey Ricard from Truckside Scenery.
We're here at Judy's layout, and we've done some how-to videos. We also took a trip over to English's hobby shop.
Joey filled a bag, Joey filled a bag, Joey filled a bag.
Okay, I never really told her that I wasn't going to buy anything on this trip, but thanks for throwing me into the train, Al. If you've never heard of Al Judy or his Mill Creek and Lycoming Railroad, you don't know what you're missing. You see, Al has been in the hobby for a long time, probably more years than I've been alive. He's a virtual master at creating realistic details and weathering, and his layout is just an extension of his vast modeling experience. Al's modeled in a lot of different scales over the years, and he's had a lot of different interests, but right now he's working in ON30 narrow gauge. I also wanted to mention while I'm at it that Al is old school. He doesn't play around. He's got a collection of DC power packs and transformers that you just wouldn't believe. Okay, enough fooling around. Let's get down to business and see what Al has in store for us today.
So what are we going to do first, Al?
Well, today, Joey, we're going to do some rust finish weathering on styrene plastic roofing. Okay, we're going to use two different techniques. I'm going to start out with some just generic gray primer paint, some clear Krylon flat finish, some rust pigments, and some soot black pigments. A couple of basic soft bristle brushes that we'll apply the pigments with, and show you each of the steps.
Okay, while Al starts the process of spraying the primer onto the plastic, I want to mention that I didn't have my proper video equipment with me, so I want to apologize. I know some of it's probably hard to make out, but you can still get the idea.
Now we're going to take some of the pigment on a brush and just sift it onto the finish. It'll adhere to the wet paint. Okay, just give you a general effect of rust. If you want to on the lower edges where it would have rusted heavier, you can add a little more like that. Okay.
Al has a lot of experience and you can learn a lot from a guy like this, but when I asked him what kind of pigments he was using, he wouldn't tell me. I think he's keeping a secret. But you can use your standard weathering powders and chalks and things like that and come up with similar results, he says.
Primer paint will dry quickly. So let's go back to this first one that we did. And at this point, you can take a soft brush and start feathering it out. Okay, which will give you the look of rust that's subtle and some streaking out of it. You can also add a little more if you want more streaking. You can add some highlighted spots to it, dry, and brush those down with the grain. Okay, and highlights the streaking on the roof. Okay. Now on this one, if you want the effect of real old dark rust, the old dark brown you see on pig iron and things like that, just take it just like it is, and you just hit it with a coat of clear, and you can see it darkens it right up, and that will dry to a real dark brown and give you that effect of old rust. And then once that's dry, if you do want to add some streaking, once again, okay, you can just add a little bit on like this, and
Oh yeah.
you get that effect just like that.
As you can see, the results of Al's techniques are hard to match for realism.
Okay, take some flocal rust, small brush, and I'll just put some spots on here randomly. I'm going to just take
And that's the rust pigment.
Yep, the rust pigment. Now, that gave it a start. We want to actually build it up a little bit. So we're going to put a little more of that on. Start building it into some heavier scaling
Okay.
rust like that. Okay. And there we're getting that spotty scaling effect. Let's get this kid cleaned off here. Fix him up a little bit.
And just for the record, since this dude will be on YouTube, we want to make sure he looks like an adult.
Yeah, that's right.
I want to thank Al for being such a good sport and playing along with my little jokes.
Okay, now we're going to use the same technique and weather a pair of ON30 trucks. I have a pair of old pliers that I keep just for this purpose. Okay, I pop the wheels, axle sets out of the trucks. Once again,
Al's making it look easy because he'll tell you it is easy. And with just a little bit of practice, you can get it down to a science and detail and weather a whole bunch of freight trucks in one evening, perhaps a fleet.
okay, now we're going to do the same thing to the axles. Shot of flat black paint on the outside of the wheels. Give it a shot. Give it a shot. Once again, it doesn't matter. You can't put too much on it. Okay, so once that has set up and dried, just take a soft brush and brush the excess off of your side frames. You end up with a rusty effect. Take your wheels, do the same thing, just buff out the excess, and the question everybody has is, will the pigments affect the wheels or wear out the bearings or anything like that? Make your track dirty? No, not really. Okay, now we're going to do some peeling paint on wooden siding. I'm going to use some just white acrylic craft paint from Walmart or any craft store. I like to use a rather wide, this is a 1/2-inch stiff bristle brush for dry brushing. A piece of scrap paper for a palette for the paint. A little bit of white paint out here. You need to get your brush well saturated to start with, but then you want to make sure you have no wet paint in it, so you keep brushing it until you get just a touch to get started. Nice even flow. Now we're going to take the piece of siding and just randomly brush some paint onto it here. The more saturated your brush gets, the better this will go. So once you've dipped it a few times, you'll find that it'll do a much better job. You want to leave some of the wood exposed, so you don't want to cover it completely. And we're starting to get a good coat of white there. I'll leave this end clear. Now,
What is that?
this is paint thinner, generic plain paint thinner, with a little bit of black flocal paint in it to make a wash. I'm going to take this while this is still wet. I'm going to put this on it. Okay. So basically it's just a black paint thinner wash. But there you can see, using the dark brown as a base with a few highlights in white. This is just the white with the wash, which is my favorite. I like to use this the best. But it gives you a nice aged peeling paint effect. You can do it with other colors. The lighter the color, the better the effect. The dark colors, it's just harder to see the effect, even though the same thing is happening, but you just don't get quite the results.
I always mention that there's a lot of different types of techniques out there that you can use. These couldn't come from a more knowledgeable guy, so maybe you can give them a try and see what you can come up with. If you want to see more of Al's layout, just go to Facebook and type in the search bar, Mill Creek and Lycoming Railroad. He also hosts a page dedicated to ON30 railroading only. You don't have to be an ON30 modeler to learn something. There's a lot of good stuff there. This is Joey Ricard with TracksideScenery.com. Thanks for watching. See you next time.